Hi everyone, we are excited to have you here in today's fun-filled learning session at Uolo. Here is a quick look at how you can submit your work after the class. As a first step, go to live.uolo.com. You can use any browser to access this site. On this page, you will see a list of all our classes. Scroll down and you can see the Submit Your Work button. And then you will see a list of the classes that you've last attended, which could, for example, show the dance or craft or science experiment classes you've attended recently. Next, it will show you the list of children whose names are registered in this mobile number. Choose your name from this list to submit your work. For instance, if you are Satvik Kumar, choose that name. And then choose the class for which you would like to make your submission. For example, if you've attended the New Year's Masquerade Party session and you'd like to make the submission for this class, click on the Submit Your Work button below that. And then upload the photo you've taken. Choose the image from your phone and click Submit. You can scroll down and view all your past submissions and see how many of your friends or peers have liked your work. You can also see others' work and like their work to inspire your friends. If you want to showcase your work on social media, that too is very simple. Click on Share, copy the link, and post it on Instagram or Facebook or any other platform of your choice. Just a tiny reminder, your submission looks a lot better if you could click a photo in the landscape mode rather than the portrait mode. Do not forget to tag us at YOLO_app. I'm eagerly looking forward to all your submissions right after this class.
Hey there, kids. How are you doing? Welcome to today's class. Today is the last class of our GK with art as part of this course, and I hope you're excited to be here because I am super excited to have you here. Now, today's topic is going to be all about continents and oceans, and I hope you are excited to go ahead and do some fun drawings because we're going to go ahead and do something offbeat, something that we have not been going ahead and doing, and do it in today's class. Now, before we go ahead and get started with the list of materials and everything that we need, let's talk a little bit about the certificate program as well as a little bit about your submissions. Now, coming to your certificate program, like you all know, you're getting certificates for the work that you're going ahead and doing. The first thing that you have to keep in mind to get a certificate is that to not miss any class. You have to go ahead and attend all of your classes of any particular course. The second thing to go ahead and keep in mind is to go ahead and do all of your submissions. You do not want to miss any of your submissions of any particular course. Now, since we have that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about your submissions. I've been telling you guys a lot about how I want to see your submissions because it shows me how you are progressing as a student. And I still mean that till this day. Make sure you're going ahead and doing your submissions because I, as the teacher, want to see how you're improving. I want to see how you're growing. I want to see how well you are doing. And the only way I can sort of assess that and figure that out is by looking at your submission. So make it a point to go ahead and do all of your submissions so I, as a teacher, can go ahead and look at your work. Now, let's go ahead and get started with today's class. Today's class, like I mentioned, is all about oceans and continents. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of a unique illustration as well as a drawing. Now, I thought about how we could go ahead and represent every single continent, and drawing oceans would probably be very hard. So how we could represent just the simple continents, and I figured out the best way we could go ahead and do that is by doing something from every continent. And to pick up a topic, I wanted it to be fun. So today's class, I decided that we are going to go ahead and pick out one food item from every continent, and we're going to go ahead and draw that out. So let's go ahead and get started with a list of materials that we need for today's class. So the first thing that you need for today's class is going to be a sheet of a paper. Here you can see I have a sheet of a paper with me. You can go ahead and take sort of like a drawing book, you can take a sketchbook, you can take whatever you have with you. It'll work absolutely well. The next thing that you need for today's class is going to be a bunch of sketch pens. You can also go ahead and grab a set of crayons, color pencils, or whatever, color instrument you have with you as well. Now, what we're going to do as part of the format of today's class is going to be that I'm going to go ahead and just draw everything with a sketch pen. If you are uncomfortable drawing it with a sketch pen, then you can definitely go ahead and use a pencil and first draw, and then you can go ahead and start coloring it in. Now, what I have done is right at the end, I've shown you all of my coloring and how I've gone ahead and done the coloring. So you can go ahead and do it alongside at that point of time, or you can go ahead and get started with the coloring right away. Whatever works for you, go ahead and do the same. Now, let's start off with the first continent, or the first two continents that I have right here. The first two continents that I have right here are that of North and South America. Now, America is one of the most famous food is always burger. So that's what we're going to go ahead and get started with our drawing. So I'm going ahead and taking a black color marker and I'm drawing my, burger right here. So I'm starting off with my burger bun. I'm doing sort of like a curve on top, and then I'm done a sleeping line right at the bottom. Then I'm going to go ahead and add in a bunch of fillings. So I'm going ahead and adding sort of a wiggly line, and then I'm adding in sort of like a rectangle. Then I'm going to go ahead and do another wiggly line, and then I'm again going to go ahead and do a rectangle. Now this could be sort of like a lead burger, it could be vegetables, it could be sort of like a patty that's there, it could be some cheese that's there, and then I'm finally going ahead and adding in the final baseline. Now I wanted to make this a little bit more fun, so I went ahead and added some sesame seeds as well. Now, like I mentioned, you can go ahead and start coloring this right now, or you can go ahead and color this later on, whatever suits you or would work. Now, let's go ahead and get started with talking about America, which is South America and North America. Now, North America is basically on the top half, and South America is at the bottom half. Now, North America has basically 23 countries in it, and the population from the world, the percentage of the population that exists in North America is that of 7.60%. So, around almost 7.5%, or so, almost 8% of people live in North America, the region. Now, coming to South America, we have around 12 countries that come under South America, and we have 5.53% of the total world's population living in South America. South America is little at the bottom of North America, and it comes on the other side of the globe. So we, in terms of Asia and all of that, come towards the east, versus America and North America, South America, both end up coming towards the western side of the world. And they obviously have different time zones when it comes to us. Now let's move on to the next continent that I have for you. The next continent is that of Europe. Now for Europe, I wanted to go ahead and take Italy as a representation, and I'm going ahead and drawing a bowl of pasta. So here I'm going ahead and drawing my simple bowl right there, and then I'm going to go ahead and draw the noodles. Now you can go ahead and do this however you like. I just felt like drawing a bunch of noodles. You can draw macaroni, you can go ahead and draw penne, you can go ahead and draw any other pasta that you know of. I wanted to go ahead and make this spaghetti bolognese, so I'm going ahead and drawing the spaghetti right at the bottom, and then I'm going ahead and drawing the bolognese, or the meatballs like they call it in Italy, right on top. Now while you go ahead and continue drawing this and coloring, let me talk to you about Europe. Now Europe has a total of 43 countries in it, so that's a lot of countries that are there in Europe, and around 9.59% of people from the world live in Europe. Now, though Europe is a vast country, it is still on, a vast continent, it is still on the bigger side, and it has 43 countries. The number of people that live in Europe tend to be a lot lesser. There are not those many people as compared to the other countries that live in Europe. We would technically say that it's not that populated, it's not that crowded. You do have a good amount of population, but not a lot of population. Now let's move on to the next continent that I have, and that is of Asia. So here for Asia, I wanted to go ahead and take our own India as a representation, and I'm drawing samosas for this. So here I've gone ahead and done a true triangle sort of curving to each other, and then I'm doing another samosa. So I'm drawing two samosas right here. Now, while you go ahead and draw your samosas, let's talk about the continent of Asia. Now, the continent of Asia has around 47 countries in it. So it is compared to Europe, we have around four more countries, but we are the most populated. So our continent has 59.54 percentage of the population. So if you think about it, if there are 100% of people or 100 people, 59 people would technically belong from Asia. So our country is basically that of India, China, of that of Japan, of that of Pakistan, Iran, all of these countries that come into Asia, Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia, that we have all of these regions. We have Bhutan, we have Bangladesh, all of them consist of Asia, and we have 59% of the population. So we would technically be more crowded. So if you go to Europe, you will see less people, but versus when you come to places like India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, you will see there are a lot more people, living in a particular space. You have a lot more people living in a particular city, particular, town, particular village. You have a lot more citizens. Now let's move on to the next one, which is that of Africa. Now for Africa, they have very, very, complicated food dishes. So I didn't want to go ahead and draw something very complicated. I decided to go ahead and draw a watermelon because watermelons originate from Africa. So here I'm going ahead and drawing a basic watermelon shape, and then I'm drawing a cut watermelon right here. Now I'm also going ahead and drawing sort of like the stalk on top of the watermelon to give just sort of a good look, and you can go ahead and get started with this. Now Africa is very close to South America and North America. Again, it falls on the western side of the country, and it has 54 countries in it. So that's a lot of countries that is there in Africa. But when it comes to the density of population or the number of people living in Africa, we have only 17.2% of the total world's population. Now, technically, if you look at that, it is the second, most populated continent. But there's a big difference between 60% and 17%. But yes, Africa is a lot more smaller when it comes to Asia. Asia is the largest continent that we have, so a lot more smaller, but still very, very, populated as compared to the other countries. Now, the last drawing we're going to go ahead and do is that of Australia. So, Australia, I wanted to go ahead and draw fish and chips because it is a native to Australia. So, here I'm going ahead and drawing the two fried fish pieces, and then I'm going ahead and drawing some chips, which is basically French fries. And then I'm also going to go ahead and draw a few peas because they sort of represent, our general Australian cuisine of eating vegetables and having peas on the side and things like that. So if you look at this, I'm going ahead and adding in a few peas. Now, while you continue drawing this, let me talk a little bit about Australia. Now, Australia is the smallest continent. It has around 14 countries when it comes to Australia, but it has 0.55%, world's population. So it is small, but it also has very, very, very little population when it comes to the whole world. Now, here you can see we have five drawings, but there are totally seven continents. So we spoke about America being divided into North America and South America. We spoke about Europe, we spoke about Asia, Africa, Australia, and the last continent that we have is that of Antarctica. Now, Antarctica, people don't live. It's too cold, it's too snowy, it's out at the poles, so it's really, really cold. So people don't really live in Antarctica. But Antarctica has a 0% population, obviously, and it also has zero countries in it. Now, since we've spoken all about, all of our continents, now let's go ahead and talk about the four oceans when it comes to these continents. Now, technically, in over time, they wanted to go ahead and figure out how many oceans are there. And as they went ahead and started researching and figuring it out, they could divide the oceans into more categories than four. And there is sort of like a differentiation when it comes to that. But the four main oceans when it comes to the world is that of the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and that of the Arctic Ocean. So the Pacific Ocean is basically that ocean that is the most biggest and the widest spread ocean. It touches from the south to the east. We have it sort of circulating all around. In the middle, very, very close to Asia, we have the Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean is very, very close to our continent. So, we are also sort of like the reason why it's called Indian Ocean. We have the Atlantic Ocean, which is basically at the bottom. It is the ocean that is there right at the bottom, and then we have Arctic Ocean, which is right on top. So they have gone ahead and divided it into four parts like this. They can go ahead and further divide it. For example, they have something called the Southern Ocean, and they wanted to break up the Atlantic Ocean into two, three more parts, but that would get really complicated, so I didn't want to go ahead and discuss that in today's class. Now, since all of you have gone ahead and learned so much about your countries as well as your oceans, we can now go ahead and move on to all of the facts that I have lined up for you. Now, before we get started with the facts, I want to show you how my coloring looks. So if you look at this sheet right here, I've gone ahead and finished up my coloring. Now, this you can go ahead and get started with if you haven't already gotten started with the coloring. If you have gotten started, then you can use this as a reference if you need to in terms of your coloring. Now let's get started with your facts that I have right here. Now the first fact that I have is from Asia, but particularly from the country of China. So in China, 63 million pairs of chopsticks are created or produced every year. Now in China, like they all don't use that much of spoons and forks. They use a lot of chopsticks, and 63 million chopsticks are produced every year because they go ahead and use wooden chopsticks to basically eat. Now, coming to the second fact that I have, that is again very, very native to Asia, something very, very close to all of our hearts, which is that of India's facts. Now, India basically introduced sugar or introduced the sweet tooth to everybody in the world. Now, sugar or the concept of sweetness was not there before India actually invented it. So, India were the first people to basically start growing sugarcane. We were also the ones to first start producing sugar. So, automatically, the concept of anything sweet came from India. So, obviously, we are very, very famous for all of our sweets, but obviously, we're also famous for producing the largest amount of sugar because we grow the largest amount of sugar grain, and India invented the concept of sweet foods. Now let's go ahead and talk about a third fact which is related to America. So if you know the United States of America, there is their flag which basically has 50 stars in it. Now, do you know where those 50 stars basically came from? So those 50 stars basically came from a class project. So one day a teacher decided to go ahead and give a class project, and they decided to go ahead and tell them to draw a flag. And the child went ahead and drew 50 stars as part of the American, flag. And then it was later adopted by the country. Now this happened in 1958. Prior to that, they did not have 50 stars altogether. And it was just invention or sort of like an idea that was gone ahead and created by a kid. Now, the fourth fact that I have for you is from Brazil. Brazil is part of South America. So let's go ahead and talk about a fact from there. Now, Brazil is one of the only countries that has the most people who are not contacted. So, what do I mean by this? So, like you all know, we are in communication with each other all the time, whether it is online, whether it is through our phones, whether we are meeting people, so on and so forth. So, we mostly know what is happening all around the world. But Brazil, you have these tribal communities that live in the Amazon forest who nobody's actually ever gone and spoken to. Maybe they've seen them here and there, but they have not gone ahead and actually spoken to them. So there are over hundreds of tribes who are living as communities in their own spaces, who we have never spoken to, who do not live the life we are living. They live a completely different life. They live a very traditional life, or maybe or probably a very primitive life as well. But there are around 100 or maybe even more. Nobody knows because you can't really find them. So there are even more number of people who actually live in the Amazon forest in Brazil. Now, coming to our fifth fact. Now, our fifth fact is from the continent of Africa, and specifically the country of Nigeria. Now, in Nigeria, there's a small town or small sort of like a village or a city or a district wherein most people who give birth over there give birth to twins. So they don't really know why this happens, or they haven't scientifically figured out what the reason behind this is. But basically everybody, like most women that basically give birth, end up giving birth to twins. So if you have 100 people, then 50% of them would be a twins. Think about it. Like, imagine around you, how many twins do you know? Not so many, right? Maybe one or students you meet here and there, or a friend you meet here and there who might be a twin, but you won't end up finding a lot of people who end up being twins. So that's something that's really, really fascinating. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the next one, which is that from Germany, which is from Europe. So, Germany is the only country all over the world that basically stresses on free education. Now, yes, some countries do have the concept of free education, but the most liberal and the most amazing scheme and concept is that from Germany. Germany's free education scheme basically is not only for people who live in Germany, but it's also for people from abroad. So if you go ahead and prove to Germany that, listen, I'm very good and I do a really, really good job when it comes to education, they will sponsor you and they'll take care of your education, because they believe education is really, really important. Now, coming to the seventh fact, which is that of France, again from Europe, is that France is the most visited country. So annually, in terms of tourism, people go to France. They're really, really fascinated by that. Obviously, we have the Eiffel Tower over there, and it's so, so, so beautiful. So the most visited country all over the world annually is that of France. Now, obviously, because coronavirus is going on right now, we might not have those many visitors going to France, but in general, otherwise, it's the most traveled. And the last fact that I have for you is again from Italy, and it is about their tomatoes. Now, like you all know, Italy is so fond of their tomatoes. They, grow so much tomato. All of their food is mostly based off tomato. You find so many recipes online that are all based off of tomatoes. But did you know that Italy didn't actually discover tomatoes till the 1500s? So before that, they were not actually using tomatoes. It became such a widespread thing that was used only after the 1500s. Now, I can see all of you have gone ahead and done such an amazing job when it comes to your coloring. So good, good, good work. I am so proud of your work. Really well done. So, like I can see, you guys are doing such an amazing job with your coloring. So, so well done. Now, before we end today's class, let's talk about a couple of pointers. Firstly, I hope you enjoyed today's class, because I had so much fun talking to you about these continents and oceans. If you have friends or you have family who do not know these kind of things, or do not know the facts that I went ahead and shared, go ahead and tell them, share the knowledge that we are going ahead and speaking about and discussing right here. Now, apart from that, let's talk a little bit about the certificate program. Make sure to go ahead and grab the certificate while you can. You are getting such a beautiful opportunity to grab a certificate. So go ahead and take it. The next thing is to go ahead and do all of your submissions on time. So, attend your classes, do your submissions. Sometimes your submissions might be bad, sometimes it might be good, but irrespective of how you're doing, go ahead and do your submissions on time, because as a teacher, I look at your progress, I look at your growth only through your submissions. questions. Now, this was, like I said, the last class of this particular course, but we're going to be going ahead and having another course soon. So I hope you're excited to, speak to me then, and, we'll go ahead and talk more then. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time. I'll see you guys then. Bye. Have a look at the submission video now.
Hi everyone, we are excited to have you here in today's fun-filled learning session at Uolo. Here is a quick look at how you can submit your work after the class. As a first step, go to live.uolo.com. You can use any browser to access this site. On this page, you will see a list of all our classes. Scroll down and you can see the Submit Your Work button. And then you will see a list of the classes that you've last attended, which could, for example, show the dance or craft or science experiment classes you've attended recently. Next, it will show you the list of children whose names are registered in this mobile number. Choose your name from this list to submit your work. For instance, if you are Satvik Kumar, choose that name. And then choose the class for which you would like to make your submission. For example, if you've attended the New Year's Masquerade Party session and you'd like to make the submission for this class, click on the Submit Your Work button below that. And then upload the photo you've taken. Choose the image from your phone and click Submit. You can scroll down and view all your past submissions and see how many of your friends or peers have liked your work. You can also see others' work and like their work to inspire your friends. If you want to showcase your work on social media, that too is very simple. Click on Share, copy the link, and post it on Instagram or Facebook or any other platform of your choice. Just a tiny reminder, your submission looks a lot better if you could click a photo in the landscape mode rather than the portrait mode. Do not forget to tag us at YOLO_app